All right, good morning everybody, or whenever you're watching this. I have read the comments and I've heard people want to see more of the process. So today we're doing another soil job. People saw me doing one soil job, so now I'm back again just a week later doing another soil job, and I'm going to show more of the process. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna film the process in more of a deep detail, and I'll probably, because it's hard to talk about it while I'm doing it because of how loud the equipment is, but I'm probably going to do a voiceover of what I'm doing. So this will be more detailed of the process of me top dressing, and I'll be going over exactly what I'm doing, how I'm doing it, and why I'm doing it. So that's what's gonna be going on today. But first, I would like to show you the job I just did 6 days ago, which is from the last video. I happen to be in the area, so I'm swinging by and I want you to look at it. So if you haven't seen the last video, check it out, because I showed you this lawn before, and now I'm gonna show you the after. So here, this is just 6 days later, by the way. So, you know, it hasn't been much time at all, and we haven't gotten any rain since. So everything that's been watered so far is just irrigation. But I don't know if you can tell from the property line down there, it's kind of far, but the difference in green. Just 6 days ago, the neighbor's lawn was way greener. Now 6 days later, this lawn is way greener, and you can obviously still see a lot of the dirt. Irrigation helps, but really what makes it settle the most is a deep rain. But as you can see, the grass that is poking up through here is very green and very beautiful. So this is just a great start, and I'll zoom in down there. As you can see the property line difference. So excited to see what this lawn does. And also it is mid-September, so this isn't even in prime growing season, but it is a great time to do this because it is cooler. The results may take just a little bit slower, but overall it's a great time because it's not so brutally hot. So now I'm on to the job, and again, I'm gonna make sure I show you way more in detail the process of me top dressing this lawn. So let's get to it. All right, guys, here we are back. Sorry, I lost my voice. Got a little sick over the weekend, but here we are back 2 weeks after doing our top dressing job on this lawn. This was a big one, and as you can see, it's definitely looking good. Now I came back by, I'm gonna have to treat some weeds. I'm only gonna be spot treating because this lawn had weeds before. So I need to start getting a hold of them, but I don't want to bulk mix them. And then I want to put down some insecticide to make sure that that's good. And then usually it gets gray leaf spot fungus after, but it doesn't seem to actually be the case here. But we haven't gotten rain. So I've already put a fungicide in the tank, so I'm going to apply that over the lawn. And then I have a little bit of nitrogen and then humic acid and potassium for the roots and everything, but the weeds are starting to get bad. So I'm gonna get on top of those, but I am just going to spot treat them. So we got some fertilizer, insecticide, fungicide, and then spot treating the weeds to start getting on top of those. So I'm gonna get to it, but this is looking way better than it was. You can see the line here between the neighbor, and last time the neighbor's yard was way greener than this yard. All right, guys, and here I am at the job. Now, this one is mainly the side yard and the backyard and a little bit on the other side from some work being done, but the front yard's in good shape. I'm gonna aerate it all. Now, what I wanna show you, if you wanna see more of the process, is maybe I should go over the equipment a little more while it's here. Now, I want you to know one cool thing is I actually rent all this equipment. I've had a business, I've had equipment, and I can't stand maintaining it. You know, you have the pressure of constantly needing to work to pay for everything, maintaining them, storing them, covering, I mean, just so much. Renting them, especially at the scale I'm doing things, which is a lot less, is the best way to go, because a lot of these things would sit more. I feel obligated to have jobs, and the best thing is if something goes down while I'm out in the field, I call the rental company, they come, drop me off a new one, and pick up the old one, so I can stay on site, keep working, doing my thing. In the meantime, they'll come bring me new equipment. So that's what's awesome. So I actually rent all of this, and this is not paid. I didn't tell them I was gonna do this. They didn't ask me. I don't get any discount, but I rent all this from Do It Yourself. They have 5 locations in the Jacksonville area, and they're awesome. I've been working with them. They load up, they have everything loaded up ready for me. I use it again. I'm not in any way paid to say this, but that's, I wanna let you know, if you're in the greater Jacksonville area, which is a very, very large area, and even into Green Cove, Middleburg, like all those areas. So I'm just talking about the whole, I guess, more northeast area than Jacksonville. You can rent all these pieces of equipment yourself to do the exact job I'm doing, or just the ride-on aerator, or, you know, if you're getting a lot less soil, you may not need the bucket dingo and just the top dresser. So this is the ride-on aerator. This thing is great. As you can see, it pulls plugs out of the ground, and this allows the soil to settle more evenly and faster, and an aeration is just generally good to do over the lawn. I have detailed videos about that. You drive, you know, simply drive it around and you press this button with your foot to engage the pedal. Now this is a bucket dingo, and I just use this because I'm getting so much dirt that instead for loading it up by hand, which if you're only doing maybe, you know, 4 yards, you know, it'd be okay to do by hand, but we're doing 18 here today. So I use this bucket dingo to scoop the dirt into the top dresser. And then here's the top dresser. This one's a ride-on, obviously, where I hold there, and it just has a switch that starts the conveyor belt, which brings the dirt out, and that dirt is broken up by this brush and laid evenly over the lawn. So that's the 3 pieces of equipment I use. And I rent them all, and I rent this trailer from them. I actually have my own trailer, but this trailer is awesome, and it makes it a lot easier, and it's really not too expensive. So, you know, wherever you're at, you should see if you have a local rental place. If you're in the greater northeast area, you can use Do It Yourself. Again, not a paid promotion, just really appreciate their help. So that's over the equipment I use, and as I use it, again, I'm gonna do a voiceover to explain more. Now let's check out this yard. So as you can see, here's a little area in the front that needs love. Down the side's not too bad. It definitely needs it. You can see the spottiness. Okay, now here we are in the backyard, which is the main thing. And as you can see, the lawn is actually, you know, green. It's being fertilized and treated the best it can, but this soil really, really sucks. And as you can see, thin spots throughout. And now this is probably from, you know, being full sun, being baked out in the sun with really bad soil. So even with fertilizing and tons of watering, if we get in a tough drought in the summer, you will have areas thin out in this like spotty pattern. Usually the spotty pattern's a sign of drought, and you just almost can't water enough, unfortunately. So this is pretty common. And even though you can see, they said the lawn's green and being fertilized properly, these spots just aren't filling in. And what happens, it's a very common thing, is the soil becomes hydrophobic. So what happens here is the sun bakes on the soil and makes it hydrophobic, which pretty much means it repels liquids and it can't absorb through. So that's when if you have a potted plant at home that sits in the sun and you only water every now and again, sometimes when you let it get the soil dry and you put water on top, the water bubbles and beads on top of the soil rather than absorb through. Now eventually when it sits there, it will finally start to pull through, but that's what happens when the sun gets exposed, and it's very common with sandy soil. So the sun beating on sandy soil makes you hydrophobic, which means water, nutrients, all is not pushing and absorbing through. So that's a big issue. So it's almost like, and then with that, how can you get the areas to fill in when I'm not getting enough water, nutrients, things like that? So it's almost forever problem where maybe when it's really rainy and it's not as hot, the lawn starts to look better, but when conditions aren't perfect, the lawn starts to look worse again. It's almost a cycle of it's slowly getting worse, but sometimes it gets better and you just feel an endless loop. That's what can happen here. So what needs to be done is top dressing, and that's what I'm gonna do today. I did a more of a topsoil blend, so it's that good dark compost mixed with a little bit of sand. And the reason I didn't do all compost is because of how thick I'm gonna lay it. That sand's gonna settle a little bit better and allow these areas to breathe a bit more, because I want to go really thick. Sometimes when you do too thick of compost, it starts to like mat down and harden, and I've seen it happen. Because this, I'm going for thickness to make sure I get these areas enough so those runners can grow across and fill in. So that's the goal. So by using more of a topsoil blend than just a compost, I can achieve that goal here. So I don't think you go wrong either way, but I felt that was the better move. So we're still gonna get plenty of nutrients, but I want this lawn to fill in, and so does the customer here. They want their lawn to fill in. I believe this will give us the quickest way and allow me to do my thing without having to worry if I'm really choking it out. So as you can see, it has these thin spots all throughout where the lawn almost looks so good. So because the lawn is fertilized well and green, I think it will fill in fast in between, but I will show you the process of me doing it. Now, you don't need equipment to do all this like I'm going to. You can do this by hand. Now, yes, it would suck, but it can be done. And I even recommend people is, you know, buy like that Black House sand mix, command soil, put it in a thick area, put it out and watch it, and prove to yourself that it's gonna work and it's worth doing more and more over the rest of the lawn. So today I'm going to show you my full process of doing this and explain it to you of how I'm doing it. And over time, of course, we're gonna follow up and see the results of this lawn. So let me get started. Here I am in narration Chad. So I'm gonna explain to you what I'm doing with this and why I'm doing the aeration. Now, I don't think an aeration's a must do, but I think it's a really important process to the step, because as I showed you, it pulls core plugs out and loosens the soil and allows that good dirt to go into the root zone faster. So when I do an aeration, I like to do an outline. As you can see, I'm gonna go back and forth the outline of the lawn to build what I call a turnaround zone, because you're gonna have to pick those the aeration spindle up when you turn around. So I like to do a ton of passes around the outside to give myself room to turn around. Now, as you can see, now that I've done that, I can just go back and forth through the lawn, because I've done all the outlines, the hard bits and everything like that to make sure I'm getting everywhere. I believe that's the most efficient way to do it. Hand, right on machine, whatever you're doing, that is the way. And now with the sandy soil, you're not pulling big plugs. If you're anywhere who's lived up north and done an aeration, you're expecting something a lot different than what you're gonna see here. And I'm gonna show you the plugs after, but with sandy soil, you're just not gonna get much plugs because it's obviously sandy and the plugs kind of break apart. So here the more important thing is just those hollow holes, allowing the same benefits like up north, allowing the roots to breathe, oxygen to move through the soil, moisture to drain. And then in this situation, with putting soil on top, is going to allow that soil to settle evenly and to move through into the root zone faster. I believe it's a good way because I don't want to choke out the grass or anything like that. So I've been doing it this way, and it seems to be really efficient and work really well, and I believe in it. But if there was any step to cut out, I think this would be okay, but I wouldn't recommend it because I've been very happy with the results of doing it with an aeration. Now in here I did aerate the whole lawn, even though we're not top dressing the whole yard, because like I said, even though our soil's sandy, doing an aeration is still a really important step. And as you can see, I didn't need to do my barrier here because I have the sidewalk to turn around in. So now I'm going to show you what it looks like after we do the aeration. All right, and that is the aeration completed. As you can see, you know, the holes through the lawn here, because the soil is so sandy, you don't even get plugs. I mean, this disintegrated in my hand. Some spots you get little better plugs like that, but overall, you know, this is it. Really just loosen up that soil, and it helps break up that layer of hydrophobic soil. So this is what you want to see. Now you have to be careful for tearing up the lawn. If you're gonna add thick soil like I am, I'm actually not too worried about tearing up some spots, because sometimes the spindles can grab a little bit. But because I'm gonna add soil, I'm not too worried. But if you were just doing just the aeration, you would wanna take it slower and be more careful of ripping up parts of the lawn, where if you're gonna put a thick layer of soil down after, it doesn't matter, because I wanna make sure, oh, there's a good plug right there. I wanna make sure I'm loosening up the soil as much as I possibly can. So now let's get to top dressing. And for educational purposes, I wanted to show you something in this yard. This yard definitely has some active gray leaf spot fungus. Now I'm not treating this yard, or I probably would have treated this before, but it's actually not a big deal, because it can still be treated after, even the same day. After I put the soil down, the gray leaf spot can be treated the next day or whatever. So yes, it's not ideal that it has fungus while applying the soil, but also it's not the end of the world. And also, it actually has some sob webworms here. As you can see, this area is browner and looks a little scalped. And when you look closer, look at all those chew marks on the leaf blades here. So it's not super bad. Again, sure, prefer to definitely have it treated before, but it's not the end of the world that it's treated after. Notice how you can kind of see, I mean, this area is thin, but as you scroll over, you can kind of see like, oh, that looks a little more thin and a little scalped. And as you get close, it looks scalped because there's chew marks everywhere. The sob webworms are chewing on the blades. And you know, you could dig down, sure, and look for them.
Now let's begin the top dressing. So I'm actually going to do the same thing that I did with the aerator. Is I'm going to do the edges first. So that way, because those take the most time, going back and forth with the machine, filling it up, getting these small bits and small areas is really important and a pain. So I'm like, I'm gonna go ahead and knock those out. That way I can just go back and forth while I'm hitting these big main areas. So I always try to do a nice border first when using the machine, which gives me a lot of room to turn around and things like that. And you'll see same thing around like trees and stuff. When I get to them, I'll go ahead and do a wide area around that. That way all that's knocked off. So then again, I can just go back and forth with the machine. Now I have, because I know what I'm doing here, I have the machine opened up all the way, and I plan to do 2 passes over this lawn. Sometimes when I'm doing a thinner layer, the first layer, I don't have always all the way open, and there's an adjuster on how much soil will come out on this. And actually you'll see here, I have some problems with the machine. So you're gonna see what's going on with that here.
Well, unfortunately, here's some of the fun that can happen when doing it. We had a breakdown here. This is what steers these back tires, which are the only ones that steer, and it looks like the bolt snapped off of it. You know, so again, this is why personally for me, I'd rather rent and try to get this thing back. But that is snapped, and I reached out to the company, so they're gonna see. They're probably in a machine. Unfortunately, they have one ride on, the other one's by hand, so looks like it's gonna be a lot of walking today, but I prefer that to get the job done today than not. So we'll see what happens here, but just updating you on kind of the things that can happen during a job.
All right, and now I'm using the walk behind machine, which is honestly, it holds more soil and it's faster, but I have to pull it backwards, which kind of really sucks. And since it's bigger and holds more soil, which is nice for big areas, but it's harder to navigate in those smaller, tighter areas. So I kind of have to change the technique a little bit because it's a little bit more of a pain. So I'm kind of dropping soil as I come into the area. But as you can see, I'm kind of trying to stick with the game plan. I'm going to get around all these trees because I know that's going to be a pain. As you can see, it is. It's just a little slow, takes a while, tedious getting it in the small areas. Even with the ride on, it is as well. But that's just part of the job. You know, sometimes I'll areas I get as close as I can, and then I'll dump soil out and rake it out by hand in some of these areas. But that just is what it is. It's best when these things are in big, wide open areas. It's definitely the nicest putting it down. So again, like I was saying, I have the machine opened up all the way, which there's an adjuster on there, because this one needs to be thick. I don't always do that on the first pass because I want to make sure I get everything covered, and I'm trying to you know, put a good solid amount, and I'm using a darker soil so I don't want to choke out the lawn. With here, I know I can use a lot, and I'm going to, so I'm doing 2 passes over the lawn fully open. But now that I've gotten a lot of the small areas out of the way, you can see I'm just gonna go pretty much back and forth with the machine. And again, with this walk behind machine, turning around sucks. Because I have to pull it backwards. On the big machine, it's a lot easier to turn around. This one is a lot more work to turn it around. Then again, it does hold more soil, and the other machine broke down, so you got to use what you got to use. And you can see there's a little bit of a hill back there, so I actually have to kind of stop early on the hill. I'm actually putting it on the hill, going across the hill every time I come in to drop soil, because I don't want to be on that hill sideways with this thing full of dirt, because it will absolutely tip over. So these top dressing machines can be tough on hills. So I'm kind of going a little bit short because I'm going to go horizontally across the hill rather than vertical, just to make sure I don't tip the machine over, break it, or anything like that. So as you can see, it's just really a back and forth at this time. But you know, I just go from tire mark to tire mark, making sure it's a nice, easy pass. Luckily, you can obviously see where the soil goes down, so that's what makes it really easy. Now you can see I'm getting into these small areas around the patio. This is stuff that takes time. It is a pain, but it's a must do. And once I get these smaller areas knocked out, then you know, you can work on the bigger areas, which makes it significantly easier. Now, the good thing is, like I said, it's pretty easy to do your passes because you can see where you've been. You know, you can see where the dirt's dropping. Here's a good close-up of me hitting these close areas. Just good back and forth, and then now, because I wasn't able to go so far, hitting the areas I wasn't able to get. But I mean, it's not hard to do. As you can see, it's dropped it very evenly. But the machines, you do need to get comfortable with them. You know, your first time, it's going to take you a very long time. It's going to be slow. It's going to be awkward. I've done this a lot. I know how these machines operate. I know how I want to use them. I know how they drop soil. So I'm making it look a lot easier, but I'm trying to kind of explain to you the way I go about doing it. So if something you ever want to do, hopefully, you know, you can. But as you can see, just a little back and forth.
Well, today is not my day for top dressers. On the second walking top dresser that got dropped off, that was running fine, as you saw, the belt has stopped working now. I don't know why, I don't know what happened, but I'll tell you what, it's just one of those days. I've never had an issue with the top dresser while doing jobs. I've used them so many times, and now I've had 2 issues twice. So luckily enough, as soon as this one went down, they actually called me to tell me the ride-on one, they got fixed, to see if I wanted it back. And I was gonna tell them no and just finish with this one, but in timing, I told them, yeah, bring it, because this one's down. So again, this is actually why I love renting equipment, because I wouldn't, you know, if that one broke down, I'd have to find a shop to repair it. Hopefully they could work on it right away, and I wouldn't have a spare. This, I got a spare coming back and forth, so I lost a little bit of time, but I'm probably still gonna be able to finish today, because I was renting the equipment, and you know, they're true to their word and taking care of me. So that's what's really awesome. But just kind of a rough day with equipment, and fortunately that's how it goes. So we'll see. I might mess with it a little bit in the meantime to see if I can get anything going, and if not, then just wait for the other one to get dropped back off again. All right, it has been a day of equipment failures. So after bringing the ride-on one back, it broke immediately, so we fixed the walking one, which took a while. But We finally are back in action. About probably half the day's been down with equipment. And anyone who's done this stuff knows sometimes that's how it goes. Out of all these jobs, I've never had an equipment issue like that. If anything, very minor, but nothing that cost me about half a day. Pretty unsure about getting this done today now. I'm gonna try to work, just keep going nonstop through the rest of the evening, and hopefully I can get done before the sun sets. So I don't want to have to come back tomorrow. And I'm sure the rental company will take care of me if I do. I don't have to get charged an extra day. But I didn't show, I did a little bit on the side. He had a well put in, some work done, and wanted me to cover that. So I did that. When I got the machine working again, I just wanted to get right back to work. So this backyard has a single coating on it, as you can see. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to double it up. That was my plan all along. It needs that thick of a layer. You saw all the holes in this. I did open it up so it's already pretty thick, but we're gonna get it with a whole second layer, which is gonna be awesome. I'm probably gonna go the opposite way to make sure I'm spreading it as evenly as possible. But let me get to it and show you me doing a second pass over this lawn.
All right, and now, as I said, I'm gonna go across the lawn in the opposite pattern because I wanted to do 2 passes over the lawn, fully open, which is gonna give me a nice thick layer. And I'm doing the same technique. I'm bumping out the harder areas, gives me room to turn around, so that way I can just come across and up and down here. You know, I'm not gonna be able to do, obviously, you know, some areas you can't go a different direction, and that's fine. You don't have to do a different direction. Just when I have a yard big enough that I can, I like to, because I think it's a easy way to make sure you're spreading evenly, even though these machines do a lot of the work of that. In a lot of yards, I have to go one way. As you can see, I kind of skip a certain area here because I'm making it easier for me to turn around. It is a pain to turn this machine 90 all the way in a 180 around. So sometimes I'll go and do these wider passes and then come back and fill in the middle because it's saving me time from going back and forth. You know, feel like Austin Powers stuck in the hallway. You know, so doing that is a good way when I get into these tighter areas. And as you can see, the second coating is looking nice. This is a thick layer, and you know, because the grass is so green where it's not bare, that's why I felt I was able to do this. You know, as a homeowner, your first time, you know, you definitely want to do a thick layer, but I would probably only ever just do 1 pass, and then you can do more later, just because you don't know. You know, I've done this a ton of times. I know how much soil a lawn can and cannot take. So I feel very comfortable in applying this thick layer because I've assessed the lawn before, seen it and done it and all that. So make sure you're being more careful if you're doing it yourself. But this is thick. I mean, this probably came out to close to 3 inches thick through that backyard, which is exactly what we wanted. Perfect, very happy. And then just the side yard. And again, luckily here I have, you know, I already got the far back area, which gives me room to turn around. And I have the sidewalk here as my front area. So that's kind of what I use as my barrier here. As you can see, it's just going to be a back and forth game, and it only lays so thick. So that is why I have to do 2 passes. Because this is with it wide open. So this is as thick as it lays, which really, for most situations, is going to be okay. It's going to be okay to lay it, you know, just this thick and move on. But on this one, we needed as much as we could get, and that's exactly what I did here. And I do tell people sometimes when it gets put down, it looks liney, but it's not. It's just because where the tire marks are, where the machine is, it can knock it down, because after it rains and gets watered in, it settles a lot. or it gets, driven over. So where the tire marks are constantly driving over, it gets, settled into those areas really nicely. So when I apply it, it can look like it's really liney, but that's just the tire marks settling it down. Honestly, this cleanup process at the street is a pain. This always takes a while to scoop and clean up as much dirt as possible, not to leave a mess on the street. So this can be a pain. I'm actually going to do a small area in the front yard. My subscriber pointed it out to me, said, hey, if we have anything, there's a little area out here in the front, and we did have enough. So luckily, I'm loving that there is an empty lot next to here. So, it's really just common ground. So the small little extra bits, I'm just kind of chucking onto there. Usually it's in front of another house, so I have to be really careful. And then I'm blowing off, and as you can see, the sun is setting because I was extremely delayed from the equipment issues, but we got it done. Blowing off is really important as well, because I did put down fertilizer, so blowing all that off, keeping the driveway now the area is nice and clean, and making sure I'm not leaving a complete mess in the neighborhood.
All right, and that is it. As you can see, the street lights are on, the sun is setting. I did not think we could get this done because of all the equipment issues today, but do-it-yourself came through. They didn't give up. I didn't give up on it, and it looks pretty dark on the screen. Maybe I can brighten this up in editing. It's probably just gonna look all black, but we got this covered. It was literally the perfect amount. All right, and now I'm back at the other soil job. This is less than a week later because I'm gonna be spraying for the gray leaf spot fungus and the sod webworms that I saw while doing this job. So this is just less than a week. You're really not gonna see much. I mean, obviously the grass looks good and green is the good soil, but this one was mainly to fill in. So just kind of want to show you what it's looking like less than a week later. The color looks good, but obviously lots of areas because the slowest part is the lateral growth, the filling in. And obviously in just 6 days, that's not gonna happen. So it's gonna take definitely longer than that. But to help it with that is gonna be making sure that there's no fungus or pest. So that's what I'm gonna go ahead and treat right now to give this lawn the most success. Here we are back on the yard. I treated on a Saturday, just over 2 weeks later. Now, what we're looking for in this yard is it had heavy chinch bug damage all through here. And then we had some chlorosis and stress. Now it actually really looks like the chlorosis and stress overall, there's a little bit there, but it's mostly gone. So that's great news. But, of course, this chinch bug damage is still here, and we expected it to be. The main thing we're going to look for is activity. You almost always treat chinch bugs twice. I like to just check, even though I'm going to treat. Just if I really spot a ton right away, I can know how effective that first treatment really was. I'm not seeing anything, so it seems to have been pretty effective. But chinch bugs reproduce asexually, so if we leave one, they'll be right back to a full infestation. So I mixed with another insecticide, and I'm gonna treat one more time just to be sure. But the good news is I'm not seeing anything, so it seems like our first treatment was really successful. So I feel comfortable after this second one that they're gonna be gone. So I'm gonna hit that again, and I'm gonna put a little more potassium, humic acid, and sea kelp on the rest of the back of the yard. And I didn't treat weeds last time because the lawn was stressed, but this time I'm gonna spot treat weeds at a pretty light mix, but that way I can start getting on top of them and getting the weeds dying.